These incidents of violence, several of which have been in crowded areas, are deeply troubling. And obviously, families, neighbors, and even children in our community should be safe from that. Minneapolis has been through some very difficult days recently. In the past 24 hours, we've had 2 mass shootings that resulted in 12 victims, having injuries ranging from a man with a graze wound who refused medical aid to 4 people with life-threatening injuries, 3 of whom are very, very seriously injured. Our officers responded immediately to each incident, secured the scenes, and we are actively investigating. In both of these incidents yesterday, dozens and dozens of pieces of evidence have been recovered, videos have been recovered, and we are pursuing a number of leads in both cases. We are devoting every available resource, not only to hold those responsible accountable, but to do everything that we can to try and prevent future violence.
As you see the Minneapolis police chief talking about the influx of mass shootings going on in the area. A couple happened in a couple of days. One at a transit center, and then another at this homeless encampment. Think about those 2 areas and what types of folks may sometimes generally be hanging out in those areas. Here, let me give you details of the second one. At the homeless encampment, police learned of the shooting at this homeless encampment around 10 p.m. on Monday when an off-duty officer working at a nearby retail store was approached by people running from the camp and reported gunfire. The officer left the store and heard gunfire coming from that encampment area. They arrived on the scene and they found 5 people injured by that gunfire, including a woman and 2 men with life-threatening injuries. Another man and a woman suffered what appeared to be non-life-threatening wounds, with each having injuries to their legs. All 5 were then rushed to a hospital. There's more. This latest shooting happened at a homeless camp in a parking lot that has been at the center of a legal conflict between the owner of that property, Hamoudi Sabri, who opened it up to the homeless in July, and city officials who want it shut down. Sabri has refused to shut down that camp, and earlier this month, the city sued him to try to force its closure. Sabri is facing about $15,000 in citations and fines related to that encampment. So there's layers to this, bro. There's all the fighting that's happened between the leadership of the city and then this one particular guy. We've seen these fights in other cities and discussions about moving homeless encampments out. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said in a news conference in the hours after the shooting that the city will be clearing this encampment immediately after the crime scene has been investigated. This is the worst. This is way worse than just a nuisance, he said. This is a danger to the community. The city followed through Tuesday morning on Frey's promise to clear that camp, drawing a crowd of dozens of camp residents and protesters. City workers were seen loading the bicycles, tents, and other belongings in the back of garbage trucks, while several people argued with police at the scene, saying that they were told that they could collect their few belongings before the encampment site was then cleared. After someone terrorizes this homeless encampment and shoots up several people. After that, the city steps in, shoves more people to the side who were promised to allow to get their few belongings, and threw them in the back of garbage trucks, smashed things up like some people's forms of transportation, like bicycles. So again, the kind of attention we have to be given to people and the kind of concern and care about whether or not someone has a family, whether or not someone has a life, whether or not someone has things, we just blow away and say, who cares? Who cares? They're unhoused people. It doesn't matter.
This is simply not a strategy that works. It is not safe. Our obligation is clear. Help people transition into safer, healthier alternatives, not allow them to languish in conditions that guarantee the kind of tragedy that we just saw.
I don't know what kinds of programs the city is pushing and trying to get towards. I'm not sure what Jacob Frey, I believe his name, what his policies have been towards trying to transition people into safe areas. But they have been having battles with this man who opened up his parking lot to this encampment earlier in the summer. So whatever those programs are, I would like to see. Maybe he's going to display those later. Maybe he's going to implement those since it came to a head here. But let's not overlook the fact that he said them just being there is what then made these types of tragedies happen. Why is that? Your existence forces people to then want to come kill you. Where you're staying because you're homeless forces people to then come kill you. Why is that? Why do we accept that as a normal approach to this? Why do we think, yeah, I can say that in front of cameras after people have been terrorized like this? And it's been multiple shootings in multiple days in this same city. And then the leadership then says, this is why you shouldn't be there. What have we done about our society to make sure that people don't think, yo, these people are annoying. I'm so tired of them. Let's just eliminate them. It's almost like we heard it recently on a national news program that a lot of people like to listen to.
Billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this. We're not voting for the right people. In North Carolina, wake up.
Just kill him. Just kill him. This is how rhetoric from major platforms leads to the kind of societal thought process that makes people go, those people don't matter. Man, they're annoying. Let's just kill them. Brian Kilmeade still has a job. Last I heard, I'm not sure if it happened overnight or this morning, but Brian Kilmeade is still employed at Fox News after advocating for people to be murdered. And then, then for some reason, oddly, that influx of political violence based off of people's thoughts that are also piggybacked by this president who did the same thing in Washington, D.C., as far as scraping up people's areas and pushing them aside and saying that they don't matter. Rhetoric and actions and policy lead to people thinking they can do their vigilante versions of those same things. Because as many of these, we've seen these many people say, they live vicariously through their racist president. And then after all this happens, after we see all this go down, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, we've been talking about rhetoric lately. He was asked about rhetoric.
The president himself has referred to Democrats oftentimes as evil, the enemy. Would you urge him, would you advise him to tamp down the rhetoric?
The president has been called the most despicable names by people on the left for a long, long time. I don't have to give you the catalog. It would be this thick. I'd need one of those Hakeem Jeffries notebooks to put up here and go through with you with all that. Look, there's a lot of heated rhetoric all around, and what I'm trying to advance here is this idea that we can have vigorous policy debates. That is the legacy of Charlie Kirk. He loved the debate. But he didn't hate the people on the other side, and that's what I'm trying to encourage all of us to remember. We can have vehement disagreements on policy, but it shouldn't be personal. At the end of the day, we're trying to bring people to our mode of thinking, and it's more effective that way when you handle it that way. And I think Charlie was a great example of that. Yeah.
The question was, would you tell Donald Trump to tone down his rhetoric since we're talking about rhetoric? His answer was, Donald Trump gets called lots of names. In other words, the answer is hell no. Moses Mike Johnson wants more murders. Moses Mike Johnson wants more conflict. Moses Mike Johnson didn't have anything to say about these folks talking about race wars and white men fight back. Moses Mike Johnson had nothing to say about any of that. Mike Johnson works for Donald Trump's ass. Donald Trump lets him follow around with the sniff, the smell, the stench of his ass, drawing Mike Johnson in closer every time. All Mike Johnson cares about is protecting Donald Trump and his very, very, very thin skin, because he can't take it. He can't handle it, because Donald Trump gets called names.
If I look at her name, I look at a lot of people. I do a lot of names for people, like Pocahontas. She said, my mother said I look like an Indian, so I started calling her Pocahontas. Some people say I'm very good at that, but I can't get into too many because many of those people that I named like that are Republicans, and we don't want to bring that up. But no, it's just it's a takeoff. I have fun with it. And sometimes, to tell you the truth, it's a very effective tool. But I do get credit for having been an originator of the term. I mean, a lot of times I have a very fertile mind. I come up with very good names for people.
You're very creative.
Pocahontas,
yes.
Lots of good names.